I came in here this morning and I was like, I thought of a different song we could do. I could have thrown it at them and I knew they would have done it. I knew they would have done it. Hey, it's Sunday time now.
Okay.
Don't talk.
No, he was just telling my son probably how I do that so much, so. I was like, yeah.
No, I was talking about how I screwed that song up.
Oh, well, I thought
We
it was
didn't
me.
know.
No, it wasn't you, it was me.
Okay,
It's not you, it's me.
here's our Sunday lesson, the holy relationship. Because every relationship offers us the opportunity to know ourselves. It's not always easy, and that's just how it is. But I've been pulling stuff from this book, The Eye of the Storm by Gary Simmons. It's a simple read, but it's a lot of work. It's full of work in here, full of work. It's a really good book. But he basically talks about how we are in two states of consciousness. We are either in a state of conflict, or we are in a state of communion. We're in our centered self. And so, you know how there's a storm, a hurricane, and then there's the eye of the storm. Well, when we are in our centered self, we are in the eye of our storm of life. So we're in our centered self. The storm is happening out here. So we're either in our centered self or we are in conflict. And that's going to affect how we participate with our life. In our life, we get a package of life, right? There's a big package of life. And it's full of all these different relationships that we have. So the package of our life starts right here. Our relationship with ourself. And so that can be the relationship with our body, with our belief system, whether we are choosing from faith or fear. And then the relationships kind of move out into our inner circle of the people that we spend the most time with, family, friends who are like family. And then the package of our life goes out a little farther. And it's people we know, and maybe some of them, all we really interact with is just like, one time a day. It goes out even farther into our life with maybe the service people. If you went and got a cup of coffee this morning, for a brief moment you had a relationship with that person who helped you get your coffee. But then our relationships even go out into the work we do and the way we're of service in the world and our career. Now here's the thing, like anything we have a perception about, we have a relationship with it. So we can have a relationship with events and conditions. Okay, somebody who has a big problem with Southern California on August 12th, like because the heat and the pressure of the heat and the humidity, if they're really, really focused on how much they dislike that, they're in a relationship right now with the day of the weather. Okay, so we have relationship with things all the time. Anything we're perceiving. So today I'm going to talk specifically just about people, like in relationship with people, because it is in our relationship with other people, how they seem to respond to us, how we feel about what they did. That's going to show us if we are in our wholeness, in our centered self, or if we're not, if we're actually in conflict. So I want to share a really brief, condensed version of one of my favorite kids' stories, The Little Soul in the Sun by Neale Walsch. So the story goes, there's this little soul living in heaven, right? Living in the unseen realm, just in the light, in the love, in the beauty, in the happiness. And the little soul's talking about how happy he is. But one day it occurs to him, it's like, well, I feel happy and I'm in the light and I'm love, but what does that even mean? Well, then he finds out if he wants to know what that means, he can come to planet Earth in a human body, and he will be born here and he'll forget everything, and he'll be on this planet and he won't remember what it was like to just be in the light and just be in the love. He has to remember how to get home. And get home, not by dying. We shouldn't have our awakening when we die. Our awakening should be happening here, like on this planet. We should be finding our way home, which is the heaven within us. So the little soul decides he's going to do that. He tells all his little soul friends, I'm going to the planet, I'm going to have a body, I'm going to have an experience, I'm going to find out what it means to not be in the light. All the other souls are really excited for him. It's a great idea. I did that. It was so much fun. It was kind of scary, but it was really fun, but it was really scary. Little soul says, and what I'm going to learn about is how to get really good at forgiving. And all the souls say, oh, that's amazing. That was so good. I tried that one time. It was really hard, but it was a really good experience, but it was really hard. Little soul says, yeah, well, I'm ready. Who's going with me to help me learn this? And now it's just all crickets in the room, right? The other souls are just like, the little soul says, I can't do this alone. So finally, another little soul steps forward and she says, all right, I'll do this. I will do this only because I love you. But you have to make me one promise. And he says, of course, anything. I will promise you anything because I really want to have this experience. And she says, in that moment, when I do my absolute worst to you, I need you to remember who I am. Because if you forget who I am, you'll end up forgetting who you are. And we will both be lost. We will both be lost. You know, in our daily activity and our spiritual practices, in that moment when we're done meditating, we may think we know all about ourselves. We may think, like, for sure, I am in my centered self. And then we step out into the real world and we start learning more about ourselves. When we are in conflict, we may not even know that we're feeling conflict here until we're faced with somebody who drives us absolutely crazy. Right? But see, if we are in conflict here, what's going to happen is we're going to go out into the world. People in general will disappoint us. And we're going to feel judgment. And we're going to feel blame. We're going to want to point our finger. We're going to want to set them straight. You know, I'm right about this and you're wrong. You make me uncomfortable. You need to go away or you need to change. Right? And this is where the work starts. Really, this is where the work starts. So if we're feeling conflict, it's here first. Somebody's showing us that we're in conflict right here. Eric Butterworth said, our job is not to set things right, but to see them rightly. So to set things right is to try to fix something. Seeing things rightly is when we see our lives as God sees. We see the world as God sees. We see as God sees, and so we're walking in faith. We don't have to struggle to get to faith. When we see as God sees, faith is the next part of that. And God's the center of our experience. Now, if we are in the frame of mind where we've got to make it right, we've got to fix this thing, and this person who's making me uncomfortable, or this situation that's making me uncomfortable, if we're focused on something out there that needs to change first, we're disregarding the activity of God working through those things. We're not seeing God as everywhere present. We've just limited God, and we've limited how God can be expressed in our own life. So if we're disregarding how God is in the world, we're going to want to fix and judge and blame and point our fingers because we're not seeing God as the center of our experience. When we don't see God as the center of our experience, to judge others and point our fingers and call them wrong, that's kind of the thing that just makes us feel safe, right? It makes us feel safe to judge somebody else so we can feel right about ourselves. But then what happens when we're judging other people is we disconnect from them. We're disconnecting from the people who make us uncomfortable, which, that makes sense. But if we're disconnecting from somebody, we're in conflict, which means it's going to be very hard to authentically connect to other people. And that's what leads to the judgment. When God is not the center of our life, the center of our experience, everything we see in our life is going to seem lacking. Like there's something missing. There's not enough. This didn't work out right. I wasn't in the right place at the right time. Why does this always happen? That's what it's going to feel like. So it's our relationships with other people that help us to find our way home. Help us to recognize the divine in all things. So to go from conflict to communion, We want to live within the principles of faith and love. And I read this this is from the Eye of the Storm. He says that when we're living in faith, faith is the avenue of awareness that sees God in all things. And then love is the experience of the oneness with all things. So in faith, we can just experience God as all things, everything that's ever been, everything that's yet to be. And in love, we know our connection to that. When we are in faith, our mind, because we are like letting just the activity of God present itself everywhere for us. When we are in faith, we link our mind to that power that creates worlds. We link our mind to that force, and that creates the next experience in our life. Because we're now working with that force to create a life for ourselves. Now, when we're in the flow of love, and this is powerful, faith is a big thing, but I know it says, faith, hope, and love, the most important of these is love, right? And here's why, love. Love is the great harmonizer and the great healer. Love is a force that prospers us and unites us. So in the harmonizing power of love, this is where synchronicities spring from. And love heals the perceptions. When we look into our experience, the perceptions, the events that that broke our hearts, okay, the events that caused us hurt and pain, love heals that. It expands our territory. Love expands how we are of service. It expands where we're shining our light, how we're shining our light. Love expands through us, and we become the next brightest version of ourselves. It expands our level of influence. This is why, God expanding our territory is kind of a big thing, because we're expanding our level of influence. And love gives us more to work with. Now, when you're expanding your level of influence, the way that you are of service and the people that you're meeting and the way you're able to express love, it prospers you, so you have more stuff to work with. You have more things to create. You have more things to share. It connects us. It unites us. Love is what allows us to stand shoulder to shoulder with each other. So we're creating something bigger than we ever could have created, all on our own, all by ourselves. I mean, think of, Jesus had a team. He had a team, right? People have teams. Yeah. Love is what allows us to become a rising tide, because we do this together and we lift all the boats, right? So people who are ready get lifted, but also even people that are like, I'm struggling, I'm having a hard time, they're being lifted too. We do it all together. And we do this through relationships. We meet somebody, and in that moment, we know, am I in wholeness? Am I in my centered self? Or am I feeling conflict? Because I don't like the thing they just did. I don't like that thing they just did. And we want to blame them. So, are we seeing things? When we look out in the package of our life, which includes our bodies, and the people, and the events, and our work, and our way of service, are we looking out in our life and are we seeing things that we hate? Are we seeing things we want to blame? Are we judging things? Do we need to set somebody straight? Because they are so wrong and they make us really uncomfortable. We want them to change or go away. Or are we seeing life as God sees life? Are we seeing the package of our life as God sees our life? One morning, I looked at my life and I was like, what is going on here? And I got a really strong, boom, feeling this is exactly what we want right now. This is it. You stepped into it. In a big, big cosmic thing, you stepped into it, and it's all good. You got this. Sometimes, the thing that's kind of scaring us, at a soul level, we're in the right place at the right time. This is where we go. This is what we walk through to expand the good. But just knowing this stuff is not enough. I've been hearing about projecting, for years. Mirror. I had somebody one time, she actually sent me an email criticizing me. And then she said, and if this bothers you, just remember I'm a mirror trying to help grow. I'm like, okay, thanks. But I've known about this stuff for a long time, but I was just like, I didn't get it, right? I remember when I first read the book, The Four Agreements. I had just started coming here. The Course in Miracles group was all into the Four Agreements. And I was like, oh, I'll read that book. So I got the book. I read it. It was a short read. Like, you can read it so fast. I think I read it like when my kids were napping. We were still babies. And I'm like, I am so smart. I know this book so well. Like, really well. And then I stepped out into my life. And somebody hurt my feelings, and I took it personally. And then somebody didn't act how I wanted, so I made an assumption about them. I didn't do my best. I was phoning it in. So I was still waiting for the universe to do all the work. I was still pointing at the universe as being out there. And I was not in integrity with my soul. I would say, like, yeah, I'm going to improve my life. I'm going to change this. I'm going to do better tomorrow. Well, this is going to be a rough week, so maybe next Monday. February's full of all these holidays. Let's do it in March. No, April. No, May. Let's get past Easter and Mother's Day. So I wasn't even in integrity with my soul. Just because we know something, it doesn't mean we are doing it. Doing it means physical activity. Physical things we're doing in this world. How are we doing what we do in this world? I know how to make scrambled eggs. Somebody would tell me I don't. But I do know how to make scrambled eggs. But just thinking about scrambled eggs does not give me a plate of scrambled eggs. I have to then make a decision. Am I going to have scrambled eggs? Do I have all the stuff for it? Or would I rather just have oatmeal? Now I have to get up and go in my kitchen and look. Well, I have no eggs. And again, I have a choice. All right, well, if I really want eggs, do I want to run to the store? Well, yeah. So I go run to the store. I get the stuff. I come home. Now I've got to make the eggs. And maybe I'm chopping up something. No, I'm kidding. I wouldn't chop up anything for my eggs. But I might throw some goat cheese in there, right? And then I'll cook it on high, and I'll have some scrambled eggs. I have now made the choices and taken the actions, and now I'm living this. I had some scrambled eggs. So it took effort. It took a lot of effort. I used to do spiritual bypassing where I thought, well, I'll just think about it, and that's enough. I'll just think about it. I just know it. I know this stuff. Like, I'm so spiritual. I got a crystal in my pocket right now. It's going to make everything work out. I usually do have a crystal, but, now I'm not waiting for my crystal to fix my life. I just like to carry them around. But think about this. You're going to get up in the morning, and you may have the decision of, okay, you're going to have eggs or oatmeal, but you also have the decision, how do I want to show up in my day? Do I want to make my choices today from faith or from fear? How do I want to do that? So we make a decision, but then we're not really faced with a choice about that. We can think we're doing it, but we're really not. Not until we look in our fridge and see there's no eggs, or we go out into our life and we are faced with a person that annoys us or that upsets us. Okay, now here's where the effort comes in. All right, I said this about myself. I said that this was how I was going to be today, that I was going to choose from faith, not from fear. My goal is to see as God sees today. But we still aren't living it until we make the choice to do something different. All right, the guy who just was driving and he cut me off. All right, I won't tailgate him. I won't honk my horn. I won't lose it. I'll just take a breath and back up. I'll just think about my centered self. I'll find a song on the radio that I like. Somebody told me, I don't like your music. Okay, here's my choice. I want to get offended and have my feelings hurt and go home and cry and climb into my bed. It's like, nobody likes my music. Right? I really want to, I'm like, that's one of my programs in my brain is to like go home and feel sad for myself, right? It's like, no, I made a commitment today that I'm going to choose from faith. I'm going to see the world as God sees the world. I'm going to see my life as God sees my life. I'm not going to take it personally. There are actually a lot of people who do not like to hear me sing. Right? I met one or two.
Maybe one.
And it's okay. Because there's a lot of people I don't want to hear sing. There are a lot of people I changed the radio station on. Like, it's okay. It's okay. Right? So we're making a choice, and then we're doing something differently. It actually takes zero effort to think about something that we already know. But it takes massive effort to stay in integrity with our desire to see the world as God sees this world. I wish we had a measurement for this. Like, it takes 44 micro universes worth of cosmic, I don't know, stuff. Like, this is how much effort it takes. A gazillion times more effort than just making some eggs. This is why relationships in our lives are so sacred for us. Because we're gonna meet somebody, and right there's our first opportunity of the day. How do I feel? Am I my centered self? Of course, that's easy with the people we love, right? But did somebody just annoy me? Did I just go into conflict? Okay, I'm gonna take a breath, I'm gonna back up, I'm gonna do the work. We don't have to like these people. We don't have to like everybody. We don't have to invite them into our home. We don't have to be around them. But what helps us for our own growth and our own peace of mind is to remember the divine spark within every person. And then accept that within them is a divine plan. And we don't have to know how that's unfolding in them. So it's a little arrogant to think that we know how somebody should be doing something. Wow, I just realized somebody I have a conflict with. Like, as I'm thinking of this, I have a conflict with somebody because I keep blaming this person for something. Okay. Going to work, it's why it's practice. But see, every relationship offers that. Because we know how it feels to feel conflict. We know what it feels like to be upset with something. And then we just have to keep reminding ourselves, I can do something about this. Maybe I can't do something about what they did. I can't go into my history and change anything. I can't go into the past. I can't time travel. But I can start right here and decide something different. This is what liberates us. And this is what gives us freedom. And it's what transforms us. Every time we change our mind about choosing from fear and instead choose faith. Every time we change our mind and decide, all right, just this moment, I'm going to see the world as God sees. It's okay to that's that saying, for just this moment, just for this day. It's really okay to decide, all right, just for this moment, I'm going to see as God sees. Tonight, when I get home, I'm gonna maybe be judgy later, but just for right now. But if you say that, usually you get home, you don't feel like it. You won't. You just don't feel like it. That's how I get through a day without sugar and flour. Like right now, I'm going to avoid this, but tonight, I'm going to have 18 waffles for dinner. I never do. I never ever do. Okay, so here's our call to action for this week. Okay, we have our affirmation. Let's say it together. I experience freedom when I see the world as God sees. We'll never experience freedom when we keep needing other people to change to make us happy, because we don't like how they are, and they make us uncomfortable, and they're so unpleasant to be around. Maybe they smell, I don't know. It's just when we're unhappy, though, when we're in conflict, we're going to find everything to be wrong, right? Everything is going to bother us. Okay, we're not going to experience freedom in our own life if our reaction is hatred and judgment and blame and finger pointing. You know, I told Annie about this last week, I guess, but somebody was real judgy with me in a Facebook message, pointing her finger at me, and I had to take a breath. I had to take a breath and just be like, here are the facts, and that's all I'm going to give you. I'm not going to give you the benefit of my reaction and judgment, right? But I don't like how it feels. Most of us don't want to be judged. Relationships offer us a huge opportunity to transform how we feel about things. Because really it's all starting here, how they're behaving, how they're acting. And I figured that out. After I took a few breaths and decided to not take it personally, I realized the person pointing her finger at me, she's pointing 3 fingers back at her. That's really true. It wasn't about me. It just wasn't about me. It was about her. So we're not going to experience freedom and liberation until we acknowledge there's a divine spark in someone. Until we acknowledge that within that person, the activity of God is unfolding, and we will probably never get to know why. It's really not our business. Now, this can be really, really hard. I mean, this can be a very hard thing to do because somebody may have been the worst person in the world. Or, like I imagine, like maybe there's a parent and maybe their adult child is caught up in something that's scaring the parent. But we can't force ourselves into other people's lives and force them to live their lives how we want them to live. Even though it makes sense to us that our way is the right way, our way is the safe way. Like if they would just listen, everything would be okay. But it's not. It's all on them. It's unfolding through them. And this is, God's working through them, and this is all about them. Our conflict is all about us. How do we want to transform? Because if we transform this conflict into peace, into faith, then we are putting something out in the world that will help lift others. So when somebody else is struggling, they can get a little opportunity to see the light there for a minute. Maybe just for a minute they'll think, oh, I should ask for help. Okay, so that's what we're really here for. Christ said, and I know this is why Christ said this, when Christ talked about the greatest commandment of all, he said is to love God with all of your heart, all your soul, all your power, all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. Right? Think about if you have to do something with all of your heart, all of your soul, all of your power, all of your mind, you're putting out a lot of effort. That's some hard work there. Christ never said, this can be so easy, just love everybody. Really, in essence, he's saying, this can be so hard, but you need to love everybody if you want to feel better in here. Right? He was teaching that a spiritual shift of attitude was necessary to call forth this power that creates worlds. We shift our own attitude to faith and love, and we call forth this power that creates worlds. We call it forth through us, and it moves into our life and starts shaping our life. Right? We're calling forth more good. We're calling forth more opportunities. We're calling forth more love. Right? And more ways to be creative. This is all on us. This is all on us. This was a thing, it was actually really hard for me when I came to this church because I was like, okay, Deanna, you're all done waiting for your sky daddy to do stuff for you. Like, I'm reading this stuff, and it's like, we call forth the power within us. But wait, only my sky daddy can fix things for me. I can't do this big thing on my own. I remember one time, like we were kind of talking about in the Course in Miracles, and when it ended, I sat at the desk and cried. Like I cried. I don't know if y'all remember Helen Kress. Yeah, she was the one who came and put her arms around me, right? And she's the one who helped me. It's like you're not alone when you're doing this, Deanna. Don't think that. Okay, this book, right? It's written by a unity minister because the thing that makes unity different from traditional stuff is we are taking responsibility here first. We take responsibility for our choices and our actions. Okay, are we having eggs or oatmeal? That's on us. Right? If we abdicate our authority, who knows what we'll get for breakfast? Right? You're going to just get whatever the world throws your way. Right? Or whatever your husband feels like making. Which usually in my house is pretty good. But we are the ones responsible for our choices and actions. We're not responsible for what other people do. We're not even responsible for what's been done to us. We may have been victimized, but right here and now is where we decide, okay, I'm not going to stay there. I am going to choose and do something different right here and right now. Okay, so there's nothing out there that's going to save us. There's also nothing out there that we get to put all the blame on. right? Again, that's us abdicating our authority. We've got the power that creates worlds is working through us right here and now. I am the queen of abdicating authority. Like, I practiced it. I got really good at it for probably 20, 25, maybe 30 years. No, all my life. All my life I did it. I was so good at it. And so if you need a really good excuse to not do anything, come see me. I'll give you one. But like how I used to abdicate authority in my life was that my biological father abandoned my mother when she was pregnant with me. And that turned into, well, I have a hard time with relationships because I never knew my father and he abandoned me. Well, I see God, we anthropomorphize God, so I see God, my sky daddy, as somebody who doesn't pay attention to me. But see, then I just kept using that excuse all the time. Right? It was too hot outside. Thanks, biological father who left us. Right? If my sperm donor of a dad hadn't left us, I wouldn't have forgot the coffee creamer when I was at the store today. That's how extreme I took it. I was so unwilling to take responsibility myself. So this is what the unity teachings are about, and that's why I know a lot of people who do not like this book, because it's work. It's work. This is like a diet book, right? Or an exercise book, right? A diet book only does us any good if we follow through on it, right? So anyway, Unity Church here, we recognize the authority is within us. Nobody can do this work for us, but we are not alone. We are never alone when we do this. There are people who will show us when we are in conflict. But there are also people who will be our lighthouse when we are having a really hard day. There will be people who, they're the rising tide when we need to be lifted. That's why it's so good to be in a group, because we're not all going to have a horrible day at the same time. Right? We're here for each other. So whether somebody is showing us a mirror and we're feeling conflict, and then we're making choices to get out of the conflict, to clear the conflict, or if somebody is our lighthouse, everybody is showing us how to see the God within us, to see the indwelling spirit. Everybody shows us how to do that. When Ram Dass said we're all just walking each other home, we really are walking each other home, because in our relationships, in the sacred relationship, we're learning when we're in conflict so we can change our minds about that and do something different so we don't have to die to wake up. We get to wake up together here. This is how we are creating heaven on earth. Like literally, it's how we are creating heaven on earth. In the Course in Miracles, in Lesson 60, it says, I will recognize in everyone my dearest friend. In everyone my dearest friend. Every person that we look at, we're looking at the wonder that is God at work in this world. Now we can look around this room right now. Just scan the whole room. Just look around. This is easy to do. It's easy to see everyone here as the wonder that is God. But we're going to go out in life, maybe today, maybe tomorrow. Or, okay, do this. Like, it's easy to see everyone here as the wonder that is God, but I want you to think about the last 2 presidential elections. The guy you didn't vote for. The guy you didn't vote for. Imagine this person in your mind. Can you see them as the wonder that is God? Can you see the divine at work in them, even though you don't know how it's unfolding? Right? Because it's none of our business. They're doing their life. They're living their journey. Okay? No, seriously, when you can do that, when you can step out into your life and keep choosing, I see the world as God sees. I see the world as God sees. I am in faith. I am designed to do this stuff. And everyone here I'm in sacred relationship with people. And so we are doing this together. I am not doing this alone. Through these holy relationships that we have, the hard ones, the easy ones, this is how we are creating heaven on earth. So until next time, remember, you are divinely designed to do this stuff. It's not always going to be easy, but we are divinely designed to do it. And you are the activity of God in this world. You are a blessing to this world, and everything you do, you are blessed, and so it is.
Amen.
Thank you. All right, we got a pre-meditation song.